Hi listeners, it's Mark here, back to look at another club this off-season, and this time it's Wakefield Trinity. We've got Mark Wilson, no, not that one, to give the fans' eye view on Wakefield's 2018. Then Yorkshire Evening Post Peter Smith joins us on the phone to cover off some of the off-season storylines, in particular the re-signing of Danny Brough. Finally, Mark's back to look forward to 2019, and I do look forward to him making a really great point about the new structure and how it might actually influence the way sides approach the Cup. So, with no further ado, it's time to talk to Mark, then Peter. Right, so the most exciting thing about these season reviews so far this off-season has been able to hear from new voices as part of the SLP family. So, welcome along Wakefield fan Mark to talk about the 2018 season review. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm great, and I'm really pleased that you could join us. And it's someone that you've been listening for most of 2018. You've let me know, but you're not a person that's necessarily that familiar to other listeners. So we want to make sure people get around you, Mark. So you're at WillowTree88 on Twitter, and now we're gonna do what we've done with the other teams, which is run through the 2018 season. The pre-season prediction, I tipped that Wakey would get to the top 8. I said a 7th place finish. Wakefield actually did slightly better than my expectations and finished in 5th place. Before we hear from you, Mark, the Wakey White, one of our more regular Wakefield contributors, got in touch with a view on our end of season reviews. So we'll mention that first, and then we can talk about what he said and what went on this year. So Wakey White said, another good season for Wakey, punching well above our weight again to secure another top 5 finish. Can't help but feel disappointed we couldn't take it onto the next level, but that would have been a superhuman instead of merely heroic. Tupu, Paulie, Johnston were great value, but the revelation of local lad Hampshire looking a good halfback is great news too. So that's what Wakey White had to say. So we're now going to find out what you've got to say, Mark. So kind of to set you up and get you on the way, the first sort of note I'd made on Wakefield's season was that you won 4 in a row, then lost 5 in a row. So it's probably the case when you go through those results that maybe you won the games you were expected to and lost the ones that you might have been expecting to as well. So what went on in that first couple of months of the season, and what did you think we found out about the side in that first 2 months of the season?
Yeah, so I think overall the Wakefield fans identified, we could have a strong start to the season, and we did beat the teams that we should have been beating. Though when you look back, they include Huddersfield and Catalans, Salford and Hull KR, who had pretty poor starts to the season. We then lost 5 in a row. The first defeat coming against your team, Wigan away, where we were actually leading at half time. And we were looking to maintain our position at the top of the league at that point. Good start. Though I think we came back to reality after those defeats.
Yeah, do you think kind of it was just the way the fixtures were laid out more than anything, and actually this was kind of the right sort of place for the side, because they weren't. A couple of the wins were close wins. Most of the defeats were close defeats in that period as well. So it was they were a mid pack side at that stage. But then home win over eventual league leaders St Helens and later on eventual champions Wigan happened in the season. So they stand out from maybe what was an inconsistent last 3 or 4 months of the regular season, and 7th place at the end of that regular season. So talk us through that sort of period where there was a couple of losses, then a win, then a couple of losses, then a win, and then a couple of wins, then a lot. That kind of inconsistency. So how did it feel watching the side at that stage?
Yeah, I think that's the word that comes to mind, inconsistency. Throughout that period, we've actually lost 7 games by 5 points or less. So kind of the naivety and kind of big game mentality kind of went against us, and that was kind of evident in the season before as well.
Yeah.
I also kind of had a look, and we lost to St Helens twice last year by 4 points, along with beaten them as well. So, when our team is firing, we are a match for anyone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, competitive.
So yeah, I mean, looking back at the season, it was comparing it to 2017. In 2017, we were up there throughout the year, top 4, top 5, and to be honest, with last year, we were kind of looking in danger of making the top 8s at one point. Wakefield fans are always a little bit on the negative side, and we always look that way. But we defeated Hull FC by a crazy 8 margin or whatnot.
72-10, wasn't it? A ridiculous scoreline.
I was there that day. It was a little bit nervous for the first 2 minutes, and then we saw how we were going to get on. So it was great to finish in the top 8, and then we could push through in the Super 8s.
But strange that period kind of highlighted your inconsistency, didn't it? You drew with Leeds away from home, and then hammered Hull FC at home, and then lost to Huddersfield. So, there wasn't a great consistency, was there? But did that make it exciting going to games? You didn't know what the outcome was going to be. You knew you had a side that could compete, and you probably never turned up expecting to get hammered during that period. But at the same time, was a win still a bonus? Was it exciting?
It was, yes. These last couple of years as a Wakefield fan has been great, because you've known that any game, any opposition, if we turn up, we can compete and we can win. Which we haven't had all the time. So it's been a great feeling. But yeah, certainly it was, there were some disappointing games where one that comes back to me is kind of Catalans at home. We just looked to be overrun. They were faster and stronger, but games we were, competing and defeated teams easily. So turning up, it was compared to some other teams, in the past where you're just expecting to win. It's nice to be able to go into games with uncertainty.
Wakefield kind of were that team in 2018 for me that kind of struck that balance, that competitive balance that I guess in a salary cap sport you're kind of looking for, and they managed to do that without actually spending to the cap. The Super 8 saw defeats against the top 4 sides and wins over the other sides in the bottom 4 of that Super 8. So that actually, though, helped you get to a second successive fifth place finish. You beat the teams you needed to beat to do that. We also saw 3 Wakefield players make the dream team, Bill Tupu, Tom Johnston and Matty Ashurst, and then 2 make the England squad as well, Tom Johnston and Reece Lynn, both making their debut in the game against France. So was 2018, do you think, an overall successful year all in all for Trin?
Yeah, without a doubt. With the salary cap we spend, we are punching above his weight. So even though there was inconsistency throughout the year, it was certainly a success, because we shouldn't be where we are. Although the signings we made last year and the team we've got, are certainly good enough to be there. So that we've got there on merit, and the club's doing a great thing at the moment in terms of the signings, the culture, and kind of the whole attitude around the club. So yeah, certainly a success.
Yeah, and I picked out some of those players just there that got the sort of singled out for special awards this year. Bill Tupu was a player who on the Super League pod we raved about all season long. We weren't late to the party on Bill Tupu. We talked about him before for being a huge player to pick up for your fantasy teams as well. So we weren't late to the party there at all for 2018. We were ahead of the curve on that. Reece Lynn probably surprised a lot of people with the consistency of his performances, and that was after you guys knowing that you had real high quality strike weapons on both wings as well. So without preempting too much though, who was your favourite player to watch this year? Who was your standout player for Wakefield? Who would have got your vote in the Player of the Year awards?
That's a tough one. I mean, a few come to mind. I suppose first of all, it was great to see Tom Johnston return from his injury, kind of as good as ever. Having a stellar season and just narrowly coming second in the try scorers list. I think a guy who was probably unlucky to miss out was Jacob Miller. So he's on the left edge, feeding Ashurst, Tupu, and Johnston. So a lot of the credits and plaudits they're getting, is down to the service that Jacob Miller is providing. So he was a key player throughout the year. And then,
what about in the pack as well? Was there anyone other than Ashurst who stood out in the pack for you this year?
David Fafita, he's a real character. Loved at the club. And when he's on the pitch, he adds kind of energy and belief to the team. So we pick up as a team when he's on the field. He does make some errors, but he's certainly worth his weight in gold for our side. And
he weighs a lot. He was in my my personal selection for the dream team. Did involve him as my second prop. Obviously, Thompson Streets, St Helens Streets ahead of everyone else, and the rest were kind of, there was a whole group you could pick from. He was my choice actually, because particularly in the regular season, I thought he was absolutely fantastic in the games that I watched Wakefield play. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. What if you could sum up then 2018 in just one short sentence to finish off this look back? How would you do that, Mark?
I think it's a success. We played some great rugby throughout the year, but a little inconsistent.
Yeah, I think that totally matches what I thought of Wakefield too. So thanks for that, Mark.
Peter, thank you for being a part of this Super League pod short. We're going to touch on Wakefield's off-season news stories. How are you, Peter?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
We very much appreciate your time. So for Wakefield, the off-season kind of ins and outs really. Liam Finn and Scott Griggs have left. Ben Reynolds, Craig Kopchak, George King and Danny Brough have come in, and that final one is probably the biggest news story that's happened at Wakefield in the off-season. So the return of Danny Brough, how did that come about, and how is it expected that he's going to fit back into this Wakefield side?
Well, it's the interesting one, isn't it? I think it's one of the most interesting signings by any club so far in the off-season. I think Danny will be a good fit for Wakefield. Obviously, he's played at the club before as a Dewsbury lad. He's familiar with the area. He's staying in West Yorkshire, and I think he'll slot into the system pretty well. Obviously, give some competition in the halves. Finn having moved on, he'll provide a little bit of a backup to Jacob Miller and some more competition. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Ryan Hampshire, whether he will move now to full-back, and if that's the case, what happens with the young full-back they've got there. It'll be interesting to see how we slot him in, but I'd certainly... They've signed him to play him. I can't see him sitting on the sidelines too often. Apart from anything else, he's an excellent goal kicker.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it is a really big deal. Had it been sort of come in, or was it a bit of a surprise to you guys when you heard this break?
I think it was a little bit of a surprise. I actually spoke to Scott Griggs, who went the other way after the game when Wakefield won at Huddersfield towards the end of the season, and he at the time was talking about having a big year for Wakey next year. Certainly there was no hint that he was expecting to move, but again, it makes sense for him. I think he played his best football at Huddersfield.
That's kind of been under the radar part of this deal, really, wasn't it? The headlines were all about Brough, but Scott Griggs has gone the other way to Huddersfield. Do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say to you, I think that's a smart signing by Huddersfield as well. With Mama obviously having moved on, and